This is a local investors panel. These are all individuals who are involved with businesses in Pottstown or nearby that have a story to tell. We have 30 minutes, I think actually 37 minutes, so we're going to try to stick to the schedule. I'm going to ask each of them to sort of introduce themselves and their business. I'm going to ask them to try to keep that to just a couple of minutes so that we have a lot of time for questions. I'm going to facilitate the panel the best I can, but literally just raise your hand, we'll call on you. I think we have some microphones, but with this intimate setting, I think we should be able to pull it off without the microphones. So without further ado, Chuck Galati.
Hi, Chuck Galati with Sunnybrook Ballroom. I hope everyone had a good time last night and enjoyed the venue and the food.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're excited to be in Pottstown. It was we saw an opportunity in Sunnybrook. Grew up in Phoenixville, live in Gilbertsville, so it's close to home, which is nice. And we're excited to be here. I think there's a lot of good things happening here, and we're proud to be part of it.
Chuck, can you just tell us a little bit more about your project, about Sunnybrook and Gatsby's?
Yes. So Sunnybrook, when we came in, it was open, but it was I guess it was in despair. The middle section where we had dinner last night was, when we came in, was a field. So the building was kind of a U-shape. The ballroom was there, the restaurant was there, but it was not like it is today. So when we came in, we renovated. We added the middle section, which we call the Melody Rooms, to allow us to have small to medium functions. And then we renovated the ballroom. The ballroom was probably the least of the work that we did. It was we wanted to keep its historic appearance and everything that was there. In fact, Senator mentioned that he had signed the wall behind the stage. And in fact, not all the signatures, but many of the signatures are still there. So when the bands played through over the years, they signed the walls in the back. And Sunnybrook used to be one of the big band stops, as well as political stops along the way. We had big bands from Benny Goodman to Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Louis Armstrong. We had just some incredible performers play there, and they all signed the walls on the back of the stage. So next time you go to Sunnybrook, make sure you stop back there. You'll see some of those signatures. Unfortunately, Senator Mensch was correct in that while it was shut down a few years ago, we had some vandals who came in and stole some of the signatures, but many of the signatures are still there. And if you look closely, you'll find some pretty famous names. And then the restaurant, Gatsby's, we completely overhauled that, wanted to keep it with that 1920s theme, and hope you guys will come out and join us.
Thank you, Chuck. Jay.
Good morning. My name's Jay Langford, class of 1993 here. My family was in the automobile business. We had Langford Buick Pontiac GMC, which was shut down through the General Motors bankruptcy 2009-10. We also had a side business, which is all I've ever worked for, called Heritage Coach Company. We sold hearses and limousines. And we had a soft landing with another dealer in Plymouth Meeting, but we set out to find a new home, somewhere to locate our business. And the nature of our business is one that we didn't need the frontage or the busy street like we would have in the automobile business. So through a year or two of searching, my father is my partner in the real estate business, and we targeted Pottstown. It's equidistant to both of our homes. It's kind of a reverse commute from being down in the busy main line or Conshohocken area. And we came out here and found the 84 lumber site that was on the market and had been for a while. The site became very attractive to us because of the Keystone Opportunity Zone that was still in effect. I believe it was in its 8th or 9th year. They run for 10 years. So it was a real leap of faith, a lot more space than we needed. We figured that we could lease some of the space to offset it, our expenses, and we got in front of the borough and the county and the school district, and we had to have them believe in us and extend the Keystone Opportunity Zone. And we didn't think we would be able to swallow this transaction without the help from the tax abatements. And it took some doing, but all three authorities agreed, and we got an extension. And I stood in front of the school district in particular and told them I would do everything in our power to fill the space with companies that would bring jobs and investment into this area. And we've executed. It's proud to say we've got 8 companies operating in the 69,000 square feet and 10 acres. We get calls every day about space. Of course, a lot of this is market driven. All ships rise at a high tide, but it's really become evident to us that when you set off on one of these business endeavors, but keeping in mind an altruistic goal, which in our mind was let's bring our business back to Pottstown and then indirectly help the Hill School, which is near and dear to my heart. It can be a success all the way around. So obviously we'll have other questions, but one thing I would say is to the school board and to the borough and anybody else in the public, if they can look to us and see how many jobs it did create, to maybe continue to take these partnerships seriously and invest with the private investors. It clearly was a success down where we are. Thanks.
John.
Good morning. I'm John Giannopoulos. I am the founding partner of Sly Fox Brewing Company along with my family. We've moved to Pottstown about 6 years ago, and it's been a great move for us. The response from the community has been amazing. We've been thrilled about our move here. I would say that the market needed a few more options as far as families to go out and have a bite to eat and maybe a beer, and it really has been amazing for us. We have a 30,000 square foot production brewery in Pottstown at the Circle of Progress, and that's over by the airport. And as far as our move to Pottstown and what it's meant, I think we've currently have about 40 employees at the Circle of Progress, and that includes our sales organization, which is throughout the Mid-Atlantic. And once we were up and established in Pottstown, along with some friends of mine, I established the Manatawny Stillworks, which is the craft distillery right across the street from Sly Fox. Many people don't realize that when you make whiskey, you start with beer. So we had all the state-of-the-art equipment at Sly Fox to make beer, and what we do is we just ship it in totes across the street to ferment it and distill it out. And so that has become, the Circle has kind of become a neat little thing for people to come up with their families and go to Manatawny Stillworks, or across the street to Sly Fox. As Sly Fox has continued to grow, we needed more warehouse space. So we, several years ago, purchased the old Snow King building on Glasgow Street, and that was, if any of you remember the building, it was completely abandoned. It was ridden with graffiti and caving in, and so we, new roofs, basically completely stripped the building and started over again. And Sly Fox is currently in the building. It is 10,000 square feet of refrigerated space, and then there's 20,000 square feet of space that we're currently finalizing with the borough to get permitted and occupied, and Eastwood is going to take the other 20,000 square feet. So.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Fulmer. I am an alumnus of the Hill School. I was graduated in 1987, and I'm a current parent. My older son is a fifth former. He'll graduate next year. My role is a little bit different here in that I do not currently have real estate or business investment in Pottstown, but I am a commercial real estate developer and broker, and have had some success in a similar sort of situation out in Lancaster, which is where I'm from. We've done a number of projects, but the most visible and sort of well-known of them is a project called Champion Forge, which was an old manufacturing facility in Lancaster, very close to the Franklin and Marshall College campus. And my involvement here in Pottstown has been with Hobart's Run and some things leading up to that, and talking about potentially taking some of the lessons and models we've used out in Lancaster to apply them to Pottstown. I can tell a little bit more about our project when we get deeper into this, but in 2003, my partners and I bought a 4.6 acre site in Lancaster, and part of that was a lumber yard, part of it was an old manufacturing building. The lumber yard remained, although that's in about a year and a half coming up, and we will be redeveloping that in some manner. But we immediately redeveloped a 21,000 square foot building, the Champion Forge building, if any of you are familiar with Lancaster. It is a boutique retail building with a number of restaurants, two of the best restaurants in the county. That's not just my opinion, that's I think general consensus and well regarded if you look online, as well as some other boutique retail. And you know, the lesson with that is it was all private money, and we are actually generating rents, retail rents at that property that are commensurate with rents that people, or in excess of rents in some cases, that people are receiving in suburban retail properties. So we can talk more about it, but Champion Forge has been a big success, and I think there's opportunities like that in Pottstown as well.
Good morning. My name is Rick Lewis. I'm the president and CEO of Lewis Environmental, and I will say, when you're a redhead, you always find the brightest light in any room. It just happens to point right at your head. My business is actually located in Royersford, so I almost feel apologetic not to. I'm glad you went first for not being in Pottstown just yet, but I think there's a lot of similarities in what we've done. We have actually multiple operating companies. We're located in an old industrial region along the river. Royersford was filled with old stove manufacturing companies, glass manufacturing facilities, and just ridden with brownfields and underdeveloped sites. And we really became a developer or a real estate investor by default. We have, currently we have 17.5 acres along the river, and we're closing on another section which will give us actually 23 acres and about 1.25 miles of riverfront down in Royersford. So we've reached out to a number of potential partners to try to figure out now what to do, what's the highest and best use. But the biggest thing that we've been able to do is really take what were probably some of the more depressed properties in town and not run away. We were not afraid of the environmental side. Obviously, we've got Lewis Environmental, which is 21 years in the business of remediating brownfields, but I think it's a unique opportunity that Pottstown presents as well. There's a lot of underutilized, underdeveloped, historically contaminated sites that I think we need to embrace rather than really run away from. And we look forward, especially after last night, I look forward to seeing what opportunities are here in Pottstown. But I'd say that the biggest thing that I see in Pottstown that maybe some of these other communities haven't quite caught on with is the cooperation with the local municipality. We've got $10+ million invested in this one site already, and we went and applied for a sign just to kind of tell everybody what we're up to, and I received a 3-page deficiency letter from the zoning board on what our sign didn't comply with. And so I would just offer that there probably needs to be a little bit more hand-holding from the municipal side so that we don't curtail those efforts by developers and actually embrace what they're trying to do. So.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shailja Adluru. I'm basically from India. I migrated about 30 years ago, and I lived in mainland area in Radnor. So I moved to Collegeville about 16 years ago. So basically, my husband is a physician. He's a psychiatrist. So we opened a practice in Collegeville. That's where primarily we started, and a few investments in Collegeville area. But he was working at Pottstown Hospital. So we wanted to expand our medical practice and a counseling associate since he's a psychiatrist. So we thought something close to the hospital, so that's the Pottstown. We thought, let's look into it. Initially, we weren't too excited to move to Pottstown, but ultimately we ended up purchasing a property. So once we moved in, we started liking this town and seeing the things, what's downside to it and what is we can do with the, given the resources at the time. I didn't know anybody at the time in Pottstown, but we started working on it. So currently we own a few properties. That is 213 Brownstone, 133 Jack O'Reilly Building, and a 260 Tompkins, and the 256 Bicycle Building. Also the back of the Tompkins, which is, they believe, I think 258 or something. And then 404, which is our practice. And we purchased a parking lot next to it. And now the most recent one is 232 Indian Cuisine. That's Cuisine India. So we started that a couple months ago. Not even 2 months, it's about 6 weeks ago. And it's doing wonderful so far. I can't complain about it. And the support what I got from the community and the borough office and local community has been tremendous. So I can't complain anymore about Pottstown. Of course, there are some few things that they still need to work on it, but they've been very supportive and cooperative. So thank you all so much for your support.
Hi, I'm Scott Bentley. I own 3 businesses and 3 buildings in Pottstown. My first business in Pottstown is my underwater robotics company, VideoRay. I think we can take credit for sort of starting the rebirth of Pottstown in downtown in 2011 when I bought the Levitt's corporate headquarters building, where it was sort of given to me practically. Since then, my 3 companies are American Keg, which is kind of the newest company. We're the only company in America that makes beer kegs right here in Pottstown. Stainless steel beer kegs, just almost all of them. The underwater robotics company called VideoRay. We're the largest volume underwater robotics company in the world right now. That won't be this case in a few months. And I had Montco Tech, which is my reluctant real estate company. So I am a real estate owner, and certainly I don't want to be necessarily a real estate developer. I bought the New York Plaza building because the tenants asked me to, and it had a lot of parking for Steel River Playhouse. I'm on the board of directors of Steel River Playhouse. I'll happily sell that to somebody who wants to really work at it. I'm a terrible landlord. The building's full of charities now. And I also bought the Ellis Mills because it was across the street and it looked ugly. And I couldn't stand the way it looked, so I bought it and cleaned it up, gutted the building, fixed the front. That building, by the way, Twyla, is actively for sale. I won't sell it to anybody. I only want to sell it to somebody who will make it into a true asset to Pottstown. But it is the coolest building. It's got 4 huge skylights, 9 by 16 feet or so in it. It has huge windows in the front. Now all the windows open. It was originally a hardware store in 1890. It was turned into Ellis Mills, was renovated 3 times, each time doing more damage to the building. But it's got room on the 2nd floor for about 300-person catering facility. And Shyla tells me you could put 200 people in the 1st floor as a restaurant. The 2nd floor is free span. It's a gem that I want somebody else to take to the 2nd step because it's just not my focus. I have plenty of beer kegs to make and underwater robots to build. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Hill School for having us today. I work for Rockwell Development Group. We've had a great experience in Pottstown over the past couple years. We are responsible for the redevelopment of the Mrs. Smith's Pies parcel on the corner of Industrial Highway and South Hanover Street. We currently have a mixed-use project that we're working on. We just broke ground on it in the last couple weeks. It's going to be around 8,000 square feet of commercial retail space with residential space above. In addition to that, we are in the early planning stages of redoing the Pottstown Shirt Company on 300 Cherry Street. We're looking at redeveloping that property into high-end residential units and really keeping in the integrity of the building and the history that it holds in Pottstown. Thank you.
Great. You guys kept it under 3 minutes. Perfect. Well done. So we're going to take questions now. We need someone to be the brave first question asker, and I'm sure it'll go well from there. There we go, John.
There are a lot of municipalities in Montgomery County nearby that have characteristics that are similar to Pottstown. So if a few of you could describe why Pottstown rather than one of its competitors, I think that would be very helpful.
So I guess as the pioneer, I can go for this one. So
Don't be
I live
bashful, Scott.
nearby. I live in North Coventry. We had to expand video array. We looked at a 5-mile radius. There was nothing cool. You know, when you're a technology company, you want something that's cool. You don't want this flex building next to a bunch of other flex buildings. So my chief operating officer in 2011, remember that was kind of a terrible place for real estate, said, I got a building you got to look at. It's real cheap, but I know you'll hate it, but I got to show it to you. So he showed me the Levitz building, which was in pretty good shape. Fully sprinklered, no elevator, 50 parking spots, and the price was too low to mention. So I said, gee, this is right across the street from the Steel River Playhouse, where we'd gone to plays. And when we looked into it further, it's right down the street from the Montgomery County Community College, which is a very deep well of resources for small companies like Video Array. And then we found the Schuylkill River Trail. It's right there, and it's really cool. It's a 7-mile ride along the river. I keep my bike there. I have a few of the other people in Pottstown go on a weekly bike ride with me in the spring, summer, and fall. So the question is, why would you go anywhere else? I think since then, the number of restaurants downtown, I mean, we had people, we were in a 18th century barn in East Pikeland. We're still there. It's our research and development center. And when we moved to Pottstown, it was, oh my God, we're moving to the big city. There's crime, there's black people, ooh, we can't live with that kind of danger. What are we going to do with our cars, And I think to a person, everybody at Video Array loves Pottstown. It's a really nice place to work, largely because you can do so much within walking distance, and there are so many very valuable neighbors that can help us with what we do. Just to point out Montgomery County Community College, they helped us do our wireless network. They were familiar with how to work inside buildings with interior brick walls. The Levitz building is 5 buildings that Levitz strung together. Putting in wireless networks there is a challenge because they don't tend to penetrate brick walls. Well, what do you know? The Montgomery County Community College did the same thing with Kiwi building down the street. At no charge, they designed a network for us. They also do classes on Outlook and quality control and electronics for us. I don't know that there's anywhere else in the area where there's that deep a group of resources. Plus, the borough's doing better on working with people. I agree with both comments that they're much better and that they have room to improve. But the combination of fairly inexpensive stuff, a resource-rich community for young people in technology, and that's where young people in technology want to go, and other resources you just can't get anywhere else. I would agree with the governor when he said that Pottstown's a benefit for a location, not a drawback.
Jay, could you talk a little bit about the same question?
Yeah, well, coming from an alum of the Hill School, I mean, we targeted Pottstown to be here and help the revitalization. But I will tell you, I think from standing in front of the local authorities and getting on their radar, I'm not a very politically involved person, but I was asked to join the Montgomery County Industrial Development Authority, which is it's very exciting to be a conduit issuer of tax-free bonds. But anyway, no, I jest. But being on that authority, it's pretty clear that this is, along with Norristown, the focus for Montgomery County. This is a very successful, affluent county. So to answer your question directly, I know it sounds like it may be too good to, maybe I'm BSing and there is economic gain, but if you want to effectuate change in your community, why not look at the two most distressed areas, which would be Norristown and Pottstown. And then being an alum, it was clear to me there was no other place to look. And I agree with Scott. Coming here, we are just so excited. We all run and ride our bikes on the river, which is right in front of our location, literally out the parking lot. And we've got great restaurants in town. People are friendly, the architecture, it's just there's been so many more benefits than we would have even considered when we started.
Tom, could you maybe address this too?
Certainly. I think the thing that we find most attractive about Pottstown is it's a place that was thriving once long ago. It's got a great geographic location. It's convenient to a lot of things. We have support from the borough. And I think that where other areas around Pottstown have kind of, especially on the residential side, the prices have continued to inflate, where in Pottstown they haven't quite skyrocketed like other areas. And we think that there's a tremendous opportunity to breathe new life into Pottstown. And there's all kinds of opportunity out there to redevelop the community and kind of create a new Pottstown for the future.
Yes, Levi.
Everybody who's doing work in Pottstown probably has a wish list of things that they would like other people to do. What would be one or two things that you would like to see other people do, not your own projects, but what could help? If you have a vision for Pottstown of what Pottstown needs, what should be going on, what would those things be?
So what is Pottstown missing? John, how about you start?
Well, despite the fact that they would be competitors to Sly Fox, I think the thing that helps a town really start to jump and have some vibe would be restaurants. So it would be awesome if some restaurant entrepreneurs would jump in Pottstown. And I grew up in Phoenixville. I was raised in Phoenixville. I saw what happened in Phoenixville. I can remember when I was a little kid, Phoenixville was booming as a steel town. And when I got to high school, it was a ghost town. And now you could, there's critical mass there. There's enough restaurants and things going on that Phoenixville has a real vibe to it. I can remember when my daughter was about 16 years old. She said, "Dad, I hate this town. I can't wait to get out of here." And I told her, "Jenny, by the time you're 21 years old, your friends are going to be saying, 'Let's go to Phoenixville tonight.'" Pottstown has the same thing. It has a beautiful wide main street and high street. It has beautiful architecture, so it has a lot of upside. It just needs ready entrepreneurs to jump in. And obviously there's risk up front to do that, but if you get enough people to do it, it can make it all happen. So.
Shiloh, you want to maybe add your thoughts?
Yes. I do agree with all the panelists, what they had mentioned about the Pottstown. But there's one thing, unique thing that I found out compared to other counties or other boroughs that I worked with as a victims advocate or as an administrator for a medical practice, now as an investor. This town, the people, they love this town so much. They're really, truly passionate about this town. When they say something, like you talk to the fellow investors or somebody, they always care about what's best for the Pottstown, not what's best for them. I think that's the uniqueness about the Pottstown that I've found so far. Thank you.
Chuck, do you have some thoughts?
I guess as far as what others can be doing or what we could be doing better, I think it's important to know that we're doing a lot of good things. I think that we have a lot of good businesses in the area. The Sambu Sons, who are opening Azul, believe next year, downtown. We've got some good restaurants coming in. One of the things that we need is to kind of spread the word, and that's what we've been working on as a group and in some of the meetings that I've been in. And I think, Zach, you have a project that we're working on over the summer on how we can start spreading the word about what's going on in Pottstown, because there's a lot of good things happening here. People just don't know about it. It's great that the businesses can work very closely with the local government to get things done. I think the sign in Royersford was a great example of, we can't have that kind of those kinds of issues. We want things to get done here, and they do. They're getting done. We need to get people to come to Phoenixville, or come to Pottstown and stay in Pottstown. One of the things I didn't mention earlier on was our next venture. We're looking at building a hotel off of Sunnybrook property. We're in the early stages of it, but our thought is we need better accommodations, and we need to get people to come to Pottstown and stay in Pottstown. We need to give them the offerings so that they have a reason to stay. We have the Hill School, the hospital, and several other great companies within the area that we want them to come here, we want them to visit, and we want them to stay and be part of our community and ultimately spend money inside of our community. So,
Paul, from the outside looking in, what would you say?
So I subscribe to the urban redevelopment model that that says that if you want small cities to be successful, Lancaster, Reading, Pottstown, York, Bethlehem, Easton, Allentown, you have to think a little bit differently and think about what people view as the natural monopolies of cities. I remember, out in Lancaster when we were doing our project, people would say, well, you're going to get this chain store to come into the property. And in fact, we had a letter of intent from Blockbuster Video to go into our building, and we turned it down. Let me tell you, when we were building that building on spec, it was really, really painful to say no. But I believe that people from the suburbs are looking for authenticity. They like architecture. People that have money to spend, disposable income, are looking for a real Italian restaurant, not a chain store. A real ethnic restaurant of some sort, not a chain restaurant. And at least in Lancaster and what we believe, independent, authentic, well-done restaurants, and it doesn't mean expensive necessarily, just authentic, are a big driver and something that people from the suburbs are willing to come into cities to enjoy. Pottstown has the Steel River Playhouse, which is an incredible facility. And, culture and entertainment are two things that are differentiators for small urban areas. And, what I believe and what is happening in Lancaster now is that as those things create a certain critical mass, people then want to live and work near those restaurants and those fun things. And, you're hearing some of that from the people that already work and potentially live in downtown Pottstown. But, I think society is changing, and the ability to be able to get up and walk and get a cup of coffee, or walk and go to dinner and not drive after having a couple of drinks, and just being able to, not get in your car for everything you do, I think is a trend that is absolutely happening across America. And so I view, that as an incredible opportunity for Pottstown. So, restaurants, entertainment and cultural activities are, I think, the next wave. And then beyond that, I think housing and more sort of office sort of uses will happen.
Rick, you look like you have an idea.
Yeah, I do. I just want to, Eileen's in the audience from the Chamber, and I think the Chamber of Commerce being right here in High Street is a great resource for these local businesses and their ABC Always Buy Chamber program. I think if more of the local businesses were involved through the Chamber, I've been on the board, on and off the board for I think most of my adult life, and it's a tremendous asset. And it was mentioned earlier, the trail system, the Schuylkill River Heritage Area, it's not just a bike trail, it's a river trail, and both are very popular and tremendous assets that are very unique to this area. And lastly, and I know it's a heavier lift, but the possibility of commuter rail, that's been on and off the radar screen for years, but that's a game changer if that happens. So how we can get that ball rolling, I'm not really certain, but that would be certainly pretty tremendous for Pottstown.
Well, we're going to end on the note of the train rolling. We're going to shift downstairs. You guys stay. You're all going to just take a minute and walk right downstairs and grab a drink on your way. And we'll get started with the next panel in just a few minutes. Thank you very much to our panelists.
Thank you.